I'm up almost 10 pounds since I started dealing with this guy 2.5 months ago, and he just took measurements. What's that?
But leaner?
No leaner.
No.
I'm still at like 13.5 pounds of 13.5% body fat. So my body fat obviously, went up a little bit because it's a percentage of the weight that you gain.
Yeah.
But we're not focusing on cutting. We're just focusing on improving weak areas, which are coming along great. So we took some measurements and I posted them up on my stories and on Twitter. As they say, you can't manage what you're not measuring. So that's what that was all about.
Yeah, I've got a cut. We're going to Miami in a couple of weeks for the top. It's not an official sanctioned meetup, but it ended up being that enough guys were going from the top 10% group. The admins were like, oh, we'll go ahead and go to. But there's certain cities that I go to, Miami, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, where I just have to have a six-pack. There's no exception. And I always tell guys, if you think you can't get a six-pack, you can. Or if you think you can't get buff, you can. And if you haven't done it before, try it at least one time in your life. Like go all out, do the effort, try getting a six-pack, go to a music festival, go to a beach type party thing, and just see what happens. It's a good experience to have. I think.
Okay, Jaron, I'm gonna start tapping you for that. My 15-year-old son is on my case. He goes to the gym regularly. It's one of the things I totally encourage him to do. I don't have to encourage him. He wants to. It's the only place I'll drive him at the drop of a hat. But he's like, I want to get a six-pack. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. So I'm going to DM you after the show and get some advice because he's starting to ask me. He's like putting away the bag of Cheetos, and he's like,
why don't we talk about it live since we're on the air and it seems to be a topic of interest and we're on it anyway. So, Jaron, what are your best tips on it? Because you used to be fat, right? Like, can I?
Yeah, I was like 38% body fat or something crazy like that.
Do you have a before and after picture on your Instagram still?
Yeah, I do. I do somewhere. I don't have one at peak fatness, but I can send you one real quick.
Peak fatness.
My sister does a scrapbooking thing, so it's just a slug of fat photos.
Here's one. I got one.
Yeah. Don't forget where you came from. Like, cool, thanks.
Don't forget where you came from.
Yeah.
How do I add to stream? Add to stream. That's it, right? There we go. So that's you. That's like not even at your fattest, is what you're saying.
That wasn't fattest. No, that was in my 20s. I was doing the vegan thing, living in California. So just really no muscle mass, kind of a skinny fat look.
Yeah.
That picture on the left actually looks buff compared to the other pictures of you I've seen.
Yeah, I've got some real fat ones. I can send you a Google Drive link because I did a video on it one time.
No, I saw one of you where you're just like basically like blobbed out, like you look like Jabba the Hutt.
No, it looks like that guy from the Subway. Yeah, it looks like the guy from the Subway commercial. The other Jaron. Remember the one that went to prison?
Oh yeah. The pedo.
What did that guy go to prison for?
Banging children.
16-year-old
girls. The pedo. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, look, hang on. I found another one here in your feed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've got some real fat ones. Because my peak.
You're big there.
Yeah, that's when I was going through my divorce. So I was like 235 there, I think. But my peak fatness is like 285. And I lost all that weight when I was 16, 17 years old.
Yeah. So best tips to cut?
Yeah, I'm going through that activity now. So for me, lower carbs usually works pretty well doing the intermittent fasting. I do 1 meal a day. I will kickstart my workouts with like 50 grams of protein, maybe some carbohydrates if I need them. But I have the type of body where I don't really need carbohydrates. I'll fall into the myth that like, okay, well, I need the carbohydrates because I'm not getting as much out of my workouts, but I just get big. I just put on a lot of mass if I'm doing the higher carbs. So normally I'll run the carbs on the lower side. I don't do a pure ketogenic type diet. I'll keep it like 50 to 100 carbs. And Rich, like you said, measure everything. So for the very first time I decided like, hey, I'm going to get a six-pack. I don't care what it takes. I built a fat loss tracker. I've shared it with guys in the groups, and then I did a DEXA scan, took all my measurements, plugged in where I was at, plugged in all my target goals. About halfway through that first time getting the six-pack, took another DEXA scan just to see where I was at and then adjust my trend lines. And I was able to relatively accurately predict where I'm going to be and when I'm going to get there, and then just weigh in every day. And you'll notice that it goes up and down. It's not a linear process where it's just, my camera's reversed. It's not a linear process where it's just a straight 45-degree angle line down in terms of fat loss. Some days you'll weigh in heavier. Some days you'll weigh in way less. I always got the whoosh type effect, which was
all you need is one of these. Just it's like it's not focusing on it obviously, but it's one of those like tape measures that like
the
dressmakers use.
Too. Yeah, I used to do the calipers.
That's how we got all these numbers over here. Like you just take
exactly
them.
that.
You just take them.
Yeah, and you measure them, and I've plugged them in spreadsheets and done trend lines and tracked them and tried to predict where I'm going to be. I've done it enough times now to where I know pretty much how to do it without having to track it as much as I did. And also, I don't do the bulk and cut cycles anymore. So usually for me, I'm 2 to 3 weeks out from a 6-pack at any given time. It's really about.
Do you aim for any symmetry? Because one of the things that I learned is, generally speaking, for the aesthetics of symmetrical, like masculine builds, you generally want your arm measurement, like your bi and tri measurement, to be the same as your calf measurement. My arms are like an inch bigger than my calves, and I'm a hard gainer for my legs. Like, do you have any tips for gaining muscle in like areas? Like, do your legs grow easily, or are they hard gainers?
I've got big legs. I've never had problems with legs. I joke with guys in the group that I train my legs like these Instagram female fitness models because they're just so big. If I go heavy, which I can, I'm actually a strong guy when I train that way. But I just get so big, I can't wear any clothes. I can't fit jeans. I don't have a fat waist, but I have huge quads, so that makes it difficult. So for me, usually, again, I'm more of an endomorphic body type. So for me, usually it's restrict the calories, restrict everything, and then just try to be on the leaner side. And then when I'm super lean, actually my body's in near perfect proportion. There are some areas, no one's gonna be perfect, but Rich, you always say it on your channel, you want to aim for that golden ratio. And for me, it's really about just getting rid of the fat. A lot of people think they can spot reduce. You can't. It's all over your body. If you ever do a DEXA scan, they'll give you body fat percentages per body parts. So when I'm overall like 10 or 11% body fat, my arms are 6.7 or 7% body fat. So my arms are shredded. My legs are shredded. My midsection, I have the 6-pack, but my midsection is always a couple body percentage points over the rest of my body. So keep that in mind too. It's not. Okay. It's all based on your fat distribution patterns.
That's a great point, because people think, oh, I'll do them like. My son is like, I've done so many crunches, I've done so many sit-ups, and I'm not getting a 6-pack. So yeah, you can't like reduce fat in one area. It's kind of like
low body fat.
It's like a tide. It has to be reduced everywhere.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And as you get further into the diet, so if you are doing like a dedicated cut, then you have to start cutting stuff out. So I did intermittent fasting. I'll do a cheat day once a week, and then cheat day gets reduced to a cheat meal, and then cheat meals just go away. So if I'm 2 weeks out from Miami, cheat meals probably won't happen between now and then, because just those extra calories. And it's not all about fat accumulation. A lot of guys think when they eat crappy that like, oh, I'm putting on this body fat. I call it slop. It's just that water retention and that subcutaneous water and just that bloat. And a lot of food, when you eat crappy food especially, it's not necessarily putting fat on your frame unless you're in a caloric surplus. It's just the tissue. It just holds everything. For me, I've always had like a bloating problem too, and I think that's part of being an endomorphic body type. Is your body just wants to hold mass regardless of what it is.
That's a good point, because when you get to my age, I weigh myself regularly on a digital scale, and if you have a few beers on a Friday night, that can result in 4 pounds by Sunday.
Yeah, I had a small bag of Cheetos last night and like a little thing of cookies, and then this morning, because I'm getting leaner, I'm starting to get the definition of my cheeks, but this morning, just enough bloat to where you can't see it anymore. I'm like, all right, damn it. And that's all it takes. I did not go over what I needed in a day calorically, but it's the type of food that I chose to put in my diet. And you can feel it too, because I've been eating pretty clean these last few weeks. Like that first Cheeto, I'm crunching on it. Like your body can feel that it's pure shit. It's just not real food.
What about the idea that the body fat scales are useless? I mean, look, they're not as accurate in measurement to what you're going to get with a DEXA scan, or I think the most accurate is where they do that water displacement tank.
Yeah,
right.
That's that one.
But they're consistently inconsistent, right? So, I mean, if I stand on my body fat percentage scale that I've got upstairs in my bathroom, it basically says that I'm 23% body fat. I'm not 23% body fat. But if I lose body fat, it'll show that I'm 22 or 21.7 or something like that. If I gain, then it shows that I'm 24 or like whatever. So they're like, you can use them as a consistent, inconsistent guide. But if you want to get an accurate measurement, body fat calipers, DEXA scan, the water displacement tanks are usually a good way to go. Like abs, for me, like I noticed that abs usually pop under about 12, 13% body fat. So if you're not seeing abs, it's because you're over that usually.
Okay, pardon me, but naturally being the one who's cooking bacon right at this moment, what the hell's a DEXA scan?
You want to explain it, Jaron?
Yeah, it's like a 3D imaging thing you do. So it's kind of similar to like a CT scan where you go in, kind of similar and kind of not similar. You go in, you lay down this platform, and you have, I believe it's lasers, and they come and it takes a 3D image of your body, and it gives you a bunch of information in terms of your body composition. That's between your muscle, your bone, your just body fat in general. It gives you a bunch of dimensions. So the circumference of all of your different limbs. It gives you your fat distribution pattern, gynoidal versus android. Gynoidal is guys are usually higher in estrogen. So like I was obese as a kid. I have a gynoidal fat distribution pattern, which means it was mostly on my inner thighs, my hips, my butt, my flanks. That's kind of like females. It's an effect of having too high estrogen. Androgen fat distribution pattern, that's more in the gut. So guys that have big beer guts. I've never had a gut before. I always had the flanks and just fat on my legs. So it'll tell you that, and it gives you a lot of cool insight. And then
damn, where do you get one of those?
Most major cities in the U.S. will do it.
Huh.
I'm looking for one here. It looks like you have to go to specialized hospitals, but here, and I'll pop some stuff in the chat too. So I take the DEXA information, I plug it in this tracker, and then you can, with relatively high degree of accuracy, predict what your fat loss journey is going to look like, as long as you're sticking on your diet. But you report your calories, you weigh in every day. Rich, like you said, you want to have consistent measurement, so it doesn't really matter what you do, just do it consistently.
Can I put this up on the screen, Jaron?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it. And then I'll share a DEXA with you too. I've got them in a folder somewhere, so I'm looking for that as I'm speaking.
So this is how you track it. Like this is a serious geek out session right here, bro.
It is, yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, it's good from my perspective as someone who never spent more than 3 days in 1 week in the gym.
Yeah, and then if you go to the chart, it'll show you the trend line. So usually when you start getting lower, the data is going to get off. You'll start going negative, and obviously you're not going to have a negative body fat, but it gets me about where I want to be, like 8, 9, 10%.
And your and your weight here is about 212. What's your height?
I'm 5'11".
Okay, so you went from 212 down to 184.
Yeah, 184. I was ripped. I was completely jacked.
You're about the same height as Greg O'Gallagher. I had dinner with him about a year ago. He's in really good shape. That dude, he's ripped. Like if you look at his Instagram post, I think he normally carries himself around 184. What do you weigh right now?
Oh, I haven't weighed myself in a while, but I'd say I'm probably just shy of 200. Normally, my walking around weight, my body likes to be between 195, 205. If I go below if I go like 190, 195, I start looking actually bigger, a little leaner, but not super ripped. But when I go below 190, I look like a fitness model.
Yeah,
and then that's what I always tell guys too. Like once you have your base built, then really it's just an effective body fat. I know a lot of guys in the group, they're like, oh, I got to keep bulking, got to keep getting bigger. But eventually you get pretty close to your genetic max. And I've been in the gym for 20 years. Unless I up the TRT dose to where it's no longer a TRT dose, I'm not going to get that much bigger. I'm about where my body likes to be.
Yeah. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here. And pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.